Sam Altman once stood on stage and told the world that artificial intelligence would probably replace most of the jobs people do today, that entire categories of work would be totally gone, and that we should all just trust that displaced workers would figure out something new to do. Now, in a single virtual interview, he says he's delighted to wrong, and that the jobs apocalypse he predicted probably won't happen. The reason behind that reversal reveals more about the entire AI industry, its money problem, and your actual job security than any press release ever could. I'm going to break down exactly what changed, the economic reality that has nothing to do with technology, and how you should actually read the layoff headlines flooding your feed. Altman made his new comments during a Commonwealth Bank of Australia conference in Sydney on Tuesday. He said very plainly that he doesn't think we're going to have the kind of jobs apocalypse that some companies in this space advocate or talk about. He specifically admitted that he thought there would have been a much bigger impact on entry-level white-collar jobs by now than what has actually happened. His words were almost confessional. He said his intuitions were just off. The explanation he offered was disarmingly simple. People care about interacting with other people at work. The human part of employment, the messy, emotional, relationship-driven part, can't be automated away by a large language model, no matter how many tokens it processes. For better or worse, as he put it, that reality updated his thinking. That is the public-facing story. But the timing of this about-face is not a coincidence. It is a flare shot into the sky at a moment when three of the most important AI companies on the planet are racing toward the public markets. OpenAI wants to go from $25 billion in revenue to $280 billion by 2030. SpaceX is eyeing a $1.5 trillion IPO valuation. Anthropic is reportedly chasing a $900 billion valuation while trying to lock down $30 billion in new funding. When you are about to ask institutional investors and retail shareholders to pour unimaginable sums of money into your company, the last thing you want is to be known as the guy who promised a wave of mass unemployment that triggers regulatory crackdowns and public hatred. Altman's pivot is, at least in part, a narrative cleanup operation. Peter Wildeford from the AI Policy Network pointed out that public opinion research makes it pretty clear Americans feel quite negative about AI, and the industry has responded with an about-face. He questioned whether they have actually changed their economic forecasts or are simply trying to change the story. I will give you my answer to that in a moment. First, we have to look at what is happening in the real economy, because the numbers coming out of companies that actually have to justify their AI spending are telling a completely different story from the utopian and apocalyptic narratives alike. Uber's chief technology officer went viral a few weeks ago for admitting the company burned through its entire 2026 budget for Anthropic's Claude Code in just 4 months. Let that sink in. 12 months of allocated spend gone in a third of the time, and that is before we even ask what Uber got in return. The company's COO said separately that it is becoming harder and harder to justify AI costs. Over at NVIDIA, the company selling the shovels in this gold rush, Vice President of Applied Deep Learning Brian Catanzaro dropped a bombshell that should be carved into every boardroom table. He told Axios that for his own team, the cost of compute is far beyond the costs of the employees. The AI tools are more expensive than keeping the humans. Microsoft, meanwhile, has reportedly started canceling licenses for its engineers to use Anthropic's Claude because the costs were simply too high. These are not small experiments. These are the internal teams of the companies building the technology, and they are quietly admitting that the economics do not work at scale right now. So here is the core of what this news actually means, and it's something that gets lost in the doom-scrolling cycle. The AI jobs apocalypse is not failing to happen because the technology is too primitive. It is failing to materialize because AI is still a terrible business substitute for a salaried human being in a huge number of real-world tasks. The market has been operating under a collective hallucination that a chatbot that can draft a memo will naturally replace the memo writer at a lower cost. In practice, deploying, fine-tuning, monitoring, and constantly fixing the output of these systems is a money furnace. The Brookings Institution just released a report finding that rapid advances in AI capability are not translating automatically into broad economic gains or meaningful adoption. The Yale Budget Lab found no meaningful change in unemployment through March of this year for workers in jobs with high AI exposure. The technological progress is a vertical line on a chart. The adoption and productivity curve is nearly flat, bogged down by cost, complexity, and the stubborn fact that customers and colleagues actually want to deal with people who can be held accountable. Now you might be thinking, what about the 48,000 layoffs that have already been justified by AI this year? Challenger, Gray, and Christmas tracked nearly 50,000 job cuts through April where AI was explicitly cited. Meta just slashed 8,000 roles, 10% of its workforce, and scrapped thousands more open positions, all while redirecting the money into AI infrastructure. Intuit cut 17% of its staff, 3,000 people, this month. Amazon and Alphabet added their own rounds. Andy Challenger himself said something incredibly revealing. Regardless of whether individual jobs are being replaced by AI, the money for those roles is. That distinction is everything. The layoffs are not proof that AI is doing the work better. They are proof that executives are starving human payroll to feed a massive AI investment gamble, hoping the productivity will show up later. It's a capital reallocation bet, not a demonstrated efficiency gain. And if the gamble fails, if the models remain expensive and brittle, those roles will quietly reappear under different titles when the budgets get yanked. So how does this actually affect you, sitting there trying to build a career while headlines scream that entry-level white-collar work is being erased? First, understand that the much-hyped collapse of early career jobs has not arrived. Altman himself admitted it. Uber, Microsoft, and NVIDIA's internal experiences show that AI is often too expensive to replace you even if it wanted to. The real threat to your job right now is not an all-knowing AI that outperforms you for less money. It's a corporate budgeting cycle where your salary line gets swapped for an AI subscription that will probably fail its ROI targets within 2 quarters. That is a fundamentally different risk, and it means your job security is tied less to your raw skills and more to the unit economics of the AI tools your specific company is experimenting with. Pay attention to that. If your employer cannot clearly explain how an AI tool reduces costs on a per-task basis compared to a human, The tool will eventually get canceled, and the human need will return. The mass displacement scenario requires AI to become both incredibly capable and incredibly cheap. Right now, it's neither. Here's my direct take, because I'm not interested in just summarizing what you can read elsewhere. Sam Altman's change of tune is not a genuine intellectual awakening. It is a strategic repositioning driven by a public opinion crisis and an IPO calendar. He needs the world to believe that OpenAI's pursuit of $280 billion in revenue will not come atop a mountain of unemployed workers who will then vote to regulate him into oblivion. The softer, human-centric framing is a survival tactic. And you know what? It's also accidentally closer to the truth than his earlier doomsaying. The human part of work he now acknowledges is not a minor edge case. It's the entire scaffolding of trust, accountability, creativity, and collaboration that businesses run on. Dario Amodei over at Anthropic is still out there predicting that half of entry-level white-collar jobs will dissolve within 5 years and unemployment will hit 20%. But he's also trying to justify a $900 billion valuation. So ask yourself which prediction is more motivated by fundraising needs. The real war here is not between AI optimists and pessimists. It's between executives who need their stock to go up and a messy economic reality that refuses to cooperate. My forecast, and I'll own it publicly, is that the next 12 to 18 months will bring a wave of quiet AI project cancellations and a subtle rehiring of human roles that were prematurely cut. Companies that fired their junior talent will find that their senior people are drowning in grunt work that the AI cannot handle reliably. The productivity gains will eventually come, but they will look more like the Schneider Electric augmentation model than the Meta slash-and-burn model. The winners in the workforce will be people who understand how to wield AI as a co-pilot, not people who are passively waiting to be replaced by it. The thing that should terrify you is not a machine that does your job. It's a CFO who reallocates your salary to a machine that doesn't actually work, leaving the company broken and you out of a job for no good reason. That is the real, non-apocalyptic danger hiding inside this news cycle. If you want to keep seeing the actual economics behind the AI hype instead of the public relations narratives, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications. I track the canceled budgets, the failed experiments, and the quiet reversals so you know what's really happening before it shows up in a layoff notice. The story of AI and jobs is being rewritten in real time, and I'll make sure you're reading the right draft.